Well, let's get to our first conversation. Israel and Iran have reported to have agreed to a ceasefire following 12 days of exchanging intense airstrikes, including a last-minute barrage of fire by Tehran. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a statement on Tuesday that Israel had agreed to a truce proposal announced by the United States. President Donald Trump overnight, earlier, the Iranian state television reported that the ceasefire had begun. The Israeli statement came not long after Trump had said in a post on social media that the ceasefire was underway, while Netanyahu threatened that Israel would respond forcefully to any violation of the ceasefire. The agreement raises hopes for the de-escalation in a conflict that intensified dramatically in recent days as the U.S. bombed Iran's nuclear facilities and Tehran attacked a U.S. base in Qatar. Well, my conversation today will stay with the impact of all of these developments on the oil market and the expected impact also around inflation. My guest joins me from our Abuja studios. He is Mr. Ademola Henry Adigun. He is the Chief Executive Officer of HA Consultancy. Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Mr. Adigun. It's good to see you to have this conversation this afternoon.
Thank you, Tolu. Nice to be here again.
All right, then. I think I should start with what you're learning with regards to how this has impacted the price of crude ever since this back and forth had started. I'm so worried. I tried to even read through how this could affect movement of petroleum products and, of crude oil, particularly now. And I'm seeing what that can also impact on the pricing. But what do you make of all of this back and forth, and what could be the attendant effect going forward?
Well, I'm happy that the war is over, in quotes, and that there's a ceasefire of sorts in place. We were looking at a situation where there was a potential for damage to economies. Oil price rise was one part of it. If the Straits of Oman was closed again, more problems again. And then war is never good for any economy in the world. Already, we've seen an adjustment of retail price of petrol in Nigeria, because the higher the price of crude, the higher the retailing costs, and the higher the price of products. And we already have a problem in the country where we're suffering from cost-push inflation. So anything that would increase the cost of business to anybody wasn't welcome. So I'm very happy that things are becoming better, and I'm happy that there seems to be a ceasefire of sorts in place. I hope it lasts, but for now it's okay.
But increase in the price of crude and all of these challenges, what does it mean for oil-producing countries like Nigeria?
People think it's positive. No. Oil price rise should normally mean that you earn more income from selling your crude. It also should mean that some deals the government wanted to do for financing should go through and go forth as well. But then there's the other part of the effect of it. At a certain level of oil price rises, your economy stutters because, first of all, it allows fracking to become more attractive. When you get to about $80, $85 per barrel, fracking becomes attractive. That means countries that are not fracking or do not have sufficient ability to do that will suffer from output. Then OPEC has cut the quota to these countries that are members. So that's one part of it. Second part of it is that while you realize more income and revenue, the retail price of your products in country will be higher. So we saw movement from $9.15 to $9.45. We saw $9.45 to $9.75. And it has been going higher and higher and higher. And every time this cost happens, it gets passed on to the consumer. So a good price is between $60 and $75. I think at that point in time, we are maximum. Refineries can produce and make profits. Beyond that, well, we might be able to earn more, but the earning more itself doesn't really transfer to any benefits to any of us on the long run.
And we already seen a shift in the price of PMS in Nigeria. I want to ask, because we've reported this and many are already saying maybe that's a fallout of the increase in price of crude. We are in a deregulated market. So I think it's going to be a two-in-one question. Are we totally now 100% deregulated market? That's one. Then what is the implication? What is happening to our own pricing? As of today, PMS is selling at NNPC stations in Lagos for 915, 920 naira. and other major marketers are selling as much as 925 naira, 930 naira in some cases. And I know it's same in Abuja, even higher than these prices I just mentioned.
Well, there's only one player in the market now in Nigeria, mainly. I mean, we're all beholden to Dangote. His refinery determines the price of the market. He is the one that determines what retail price will be because he's a dominant player in the sector. NNPC refineries are not working again. The Port refinery is shut down. Warri is not producing anything. Now it's not producing anything. Now that means that we have that kind of economy where we are shifting towards another monopoly in the market, but we're not there yet. About deregulation, no, we're not deregulated totally. Deregulation would mean that everybody can source for products, source for everything they want to buy on their own. So we have some shift towards deregulation, but we're not there yet. I mean, we're better than what we were 4 years, 5 years ago, and we're getting more people in. But we haven't got to the place where the regulation is really working itself. And I think it's natural in that path of progression that happens. Once you start a new journey, new things come up, new rules need to come up, new players will come up, and there's new laws need to be enforced. So as per pricing, I am not certain what led to the increase in price. It can't be the price of crude because typically refiners store crude in volumes. So if I buy crude at $65, I buy a lot of it and I keep it in my tanks. And that's what I find to sell. Now, if I anticipate that I might have to pay more for it, then that'll be a challenge. And I might now increase my price to reflect the potential for a new increase on price of crude. But I'm not certain that's exactly what's happening here. So let me not say something authoritatively on what I'm not sure about. There could be several factors. It could be based on other supply chain issues. It could be based on accessibility of the market. It could be cost recovery based on new investments in tankers by the major dominant player. So anything could have caused that rapid increase in prices overnight, but I'm not sure what it is.
So, but if we are to now look at the expected impact of the increase in price of crude, are we still likely to expect an increase in price, basically?
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. I mean, product prices are determined by two things in real terms: price of crude and your foreign exchange rates. That's what determines price of crude. It's nothing else. So it's if price of crude go up dramatically, the refining margins go lower. Now, to make refinery margins, you have to increase the price of your product. If your foreign exchange slides more and your naira to dollar becomes worse again, you have to increase the price of products. So those two things affect the price of products. So yes, an increase in crude prices will at the same time affect the price of retail. Whether it's naira for crude or whether it's dollar for crude, it will have an impact. A decline in your rates will also affect the price of products. So it's natural. That would affect everything: petrol, diesel, emission fuel, and everything else. It's the way it works. They're the two biggest cost determinants.
Now, back again to Dangote refinery and all of the back and forth. We see in recent times news about distribution of products, and that has also been in the news. And many have brought up that fact again about monopolizing the market. I'm just asking the questions here. What do you think about that? Because we know that we have those in the distribution value chain for petroleum products. Now, if Dangote is coming up now to say, I will distribute free of charge, what does that mean for those running that kind of business?
Well, a lot of people will be out of jobs. NATO, Nupeng, and Co. will lose their businesses. Those that have invested in tankers will be at the loss end. Depot owners will be at the loss end. That's going to happen. Now, there's nothing wrong with innovation to improve market efficiency. Now, if Dangote is bringing innovation in by absorbing a significant cost of a product, we can say that's innovation as well. Where the line needs to be drawn is if it is seen to be a play at killing competition, then that's a problem. But if you bring innovation to any value chain, you can't be punished for that. So if we are looking at it and saying, well, the consumers benefit more from improved margins, from improved efficiency and such, then yeah, it's a welcome development. But then, again, it's government responsibility as well to protect other people in the market, not protect them from their inefficiencies or not ensure that by force, by fire, they survive, but ensuring that they are not overtly displayed by people who have larger pockets. So we don't want to have a problem where we're doing a monopoly, but we also don't want to punish efficiency and innovation. So it's a thin line. It's where the regulators, NMDPRA, and the Competition Council should come in and study and observe what is actually happening. But if somebody is bringing 4,000 trucks of CNG in to improve market efficiency, absorb some cost of it, If it's done around fair trade and fair value deals, so be it. The key thing is we, the consumers, get a good value. We get the benefit of it. But if the point is to kill competition, then there's a challenge. So I think it's something we don't understand totally yet. I think as days proceed and as the initiative works or is implemented, we'll have more clarity on it. But I'm not certain what to say now. But I always feel that whatever you can do to reduce costs and improve efficiency in a system is always welcome. But I'm also not a pro-monopoly person, because I know that at the end of the day, once you have one dominant player in a market, either in supply, either in logistics distribution or others, then you put the retailer and you put the consumer at risk.
It's really getting more interesting. Again, to the issue of the downstream again, monopoly or no monopoly. How far are we again with the PIA? Every time I have opportunities to speak to you, I always like, are we following this document to the latter? Because I think that aside from subsidy removal and some other things that have been implemented, there seems to be some not very clear terms. Are we following this to the latter? Let me ask the question that way.
Well, the answer is no, we are not. The PIA was a document conceived and drawn up and written properly. But even those that drew it up, they didn't want to implement it properly. So the PIA brings more efficiency, more transparency, more accountability to the oil and gas sector, and has some very good deals that can help the sector grow and create more jobs and benefit all of us. But then you use the power of government, you use the power of monopolies and others. So there's a way people are circumventing the PIA, either through executive orders, either through interventions that are not there, and other processes. So we're not implementing the PIA properly. I feel that it's about the time to review the PIA again and see the effectiveness of the PIA and see what to tinker with to make it work. We've got a tax bill that might be signed by the president very soon. Again, the tax bill has some effects on the PIA as well. And then we've got so many things to consider as well. So I think the law has been around for like 2.5 years now. It's a good time to say, okay, let's come back to the table. What do you want to achieve? Where is the market going towards? Whether in the downstream or the upstream, whether with NNPC Limited, whether everything we thought was going to create Mofi and others, sit down again and think, okay, where is the direction and line we should have? And what are we trying to achieve with it? It's about time. But implementing properly, no, we are not.
Commending government for some moves aimed at attracting more investment into the industry. Are we still on that path despite the challenges from the Middle East and all of that? Is that affecting our projections in any way?
Well, I think I must commend them at least for the initiatives they've done. Some of the fiscal elements they've tankered with the executive orders are good for gas, and it can bring in more gas investments. I think some of the orders on contract management and procurement cycles and approval cycles are also very good and can attract investments. But one thing alone can't change the investment climate of the country. So we've got a lot of commitments. If you hear from the SA on energy or from the Minister of Finance, you hear commitments. But we've always had commitments. Even when we had no PI, there were commitments in quotes. But what we want to see is make it happen. I mean, the rig count seems to have gone up, but I'm not certain production has gone up. I heard the NUPRC say they want to move it from current levels to about 1.7, 1.8. I mean, you can easily do 2.4 with the right conditions. But then the world is also changing. Oil and gas is everywhere now. In the years behind, it was 5 countries in Africa. Now it's about 28 countries that have oil and gas. So we need to be more competitive to ensure we get the money that comes in around. And I'm happy, at least, that they concluded all the purchases and all the acquisitions. That's also good for us. Now, hopefully, the commitment made by the Renaissance Group, by what's her name, the ones at Wando and others will happen. All the money they promised to bring in after buying the asset from the existing owners should come in. But we also need to improve on security as well. Security is still a big cost element for the oil and gas industry. What I think is this. While we might be improving rig count, we still have declining take on a barrel. So you can have a barrel of crude and you're having a declining take because you're not efficient in your production processes. So if your cost of production is getting higher because you're spending more elements on some issues, then there's a challenge. The issue again is that the government shouldn't have less take, because less take means less money to do things for people in the things that's non-renewable. So there's still things to think out with. The PIA won't alone solve it. No matter how good it is. Other elements around the whole corruption issues, the whole approval chains, the whole clarity of signal from government, security must come in to ensure that we can get to a place where people actually bring their money to the country and invest into the oil and gas business. And actually more of downstream where you can create more jobs, because upstream is technologically efficient. And the level of jobs you can create in upstream is very limited because it's technologically driven. But downstream is where the opportunities are. So what Dangote has built, the other refiners being approved for BUA and others, they're all very good initiatives. And the more of them that come, maybe we can take over the West African supply chain. And maybe we finish the pipelines and others, and we can be a gas country and actually not be a petrol or crude oil exporting country, which is the aim, should be the aim of the government.
Thing. Back to the Israel-Iran crisis again. I'm looking at how this generally, we've talked about how it affects the health of the global economy. But what sort of conversation would you be expecting from OPEC and non-OPEC countries at this very time? Let's assume there was a blockage or something of such. What would it have meant for production and supply across the board?
We're going to suffer. That's the word.
That's the straight answer.
Let's being honest. In Yoruba, Yama Jewa will suffer, because what it means is that we will have very high oil prices. We will have rush for production. We'll have economic decline. We'll have increased cost of freights, and this is something not to be happened. I mean, I was very scared about the way the Iran-Israeli war was going on. I felt it didn't need to be escalated that much. I don't understand what was happening there, but I know that the balance of it on our economies will be very depressing. So I'm glad that there's something or some good sense has come into the room. But if that war had continued and Iran had held his promise of closing some of the straits when we were all have been in trouble, all of us, no economy would have been free of it, nobody. Because once you shut out a key economic route that's 20% of cargo, then it affects everybody across the world. And we've had this before, not from closing the straits, but anytime this kind of things happen, it's a global effect. And I think people should now understand that we're all linked together economically. Something happens as far away as in Belarus, where people can't pronounce properly, then it can impact all of us in Nigeria. So we need to all think about it and say, okay, something's happening, and not start taking sides based on whether this or this. Just thinking, how does it affect my purchasing power? When markets are collapsing around the world from fear, when the dollar is sliding and everything, everybody's impacted negatively.
Honestly, before I let you go, let's look at our energy challenges and, of course, what we can also do to sort this out, particularly alternative sources. Are we looking along that line? Energy transition we've talked about also for some time, but are we in line? Are we in tune with actualizing that moving forward in 2025 or even ahead?
I would say no. I would say there's a lot of more talk on gas for energy transition. I'll say a lot of discussions, but I'll say in real terms, there's no financing for it. I'll say in real terms, there's no implementation plan for it. And no country can develop if energy availability is expensive. So now what I tell people is, look, our problem is not having no energy. I mean, you can buy diesel, you can buy petrol and power your generators, but the cost to you is prohibitive and makes your good uncompetitive. Now, if you're running an office and you're not in services, it also adds cost to you. And many of us couldn't keep our office open at a point in time because when you think about the diesel costs to running an office when there's no power, you actually have to go home because they can't ask them to work in a very hot place and everything. So it's a big issue. Now, alternative energy is one energy, but it's not also cheap. I mean, when we mouth it and we say, oh, it's so easy and available, there's a high cost to alternative energy. But what I would like to see is more implementation of the agreements we've had. All the COP we've gone through, all the COP 21, 22, 23, 24, let's implement what we agreed on there. Let's find financing. But again, we're a poor country. We have challenges of funding. We're still borrowing to survive the economy. We're trying to balance a budget with 13 point something trillion deficit. All that impacts on all plans and policies. So as far as alternative energy is happening, not much talk, less action.
Mr. Ademola Henry Adigun, always an interesting time with you speaking around issues on the oil and gas industry. But maybe in 1 minute as we wrap up, I always like to have your outlook. so that I take note of that before our next conversation. What's your projection for the entire sector, considering all scenarios?
Well, you know, one thing about Nigeria is a very matured market in terms of energy. We have, what I'll say is that the Nigerian sector is thriving in a way despite government. So the government might not be doing all it ought to do, but the entrepreneurial spirit of Nigerians who have invested a lot of money either in the midstream or the upstream or the downstream continues to improve the sector. There's a spirit of resilience amongst Nigerians, which makes them adaptable to new things, trying technologies and such. But we can do better. I think looking forward, if the wars cease, if we get our budget balanced better, if the policy pronouncements are met with actions, then we can move the energy sector better. But again, I've always said that Nigerians, despite government, try and do what they can do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ademola. Henry Adigun is the Chief Executive Officer, AHA Consultancies. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you as always. Well, we'll take a break, and when we come back,